President Trump apparently wanted us to believe not his words yesterday, but what he said today as he read from these typed remarks.
That's right, Jay. Clearly an orchestrated response. We're learning that several top national security officials actually met earlier in the day and, according to sources, determined that the president had to clarify the remarks that he made in Helsinki. They even crafted part of this response. I did want to point out the president had his own edition. We saw a number of markings on these pages, and one part he specifically wrote out, quote, "There was no collusion." Of course, Jake, as you noted, what the president said today contradicts so much of what he said in Helsinki and what he has been saying for months. Perhaps the most stunning part is that the president is suggesting that all of this controversy isn't merited. It's simply because he misspoke. Facing fierce backlash after his stunning press conference with Russian leader Vladimir Putin, the president met with lawmakers at the White House this afternoon, reading from extensive prepared remarks.
I just wanted to clear up. I have the strongest respect for our intelligence agencies headed by my people.
Despite months of calling the investigations that led to evidence that Russia meddled in the 2016 election witch hunts, Trump says he fully supports his intelligence agencies, despite appearing to side with Putin in Helsinki.
I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
The president today attempting to clarify that remark.
And I thought I would be maybe a little bit unclear on the transcript or unclear on the actual video. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative.
Sources close to the White House tell CNN the president was upbeat as he walked off the stage Monday. But after watching press coverage aboard Air Force One, sources say Trump became furious, fuming to aides about receiving scant support from Republicans over his performance. One rare voice defending the president, Senator Rand Paul on CNN.
And absolutely, I'm with the president on this. The intelligence community was full of biased people, including Peter Strzok, McCabe, and dozens of others. I don't think anybody doubts that the Russians got involved with leaking email and hacking into email. But there is a question of whether or not the election was legitimate. And all of this is a sideways way for those on the left to try to delegitimize Trump and to say he didn't really win the election.
The president responded on Twitter, thanking the Kentucky senator. So, Jake, if the president can find reasons why it was Russia that meddled in the 2016 election, why then did he not condemn Russian leader Vladimir Putin? He was asked that today. He didn't answer. Jake?
All right, Boris Sanchez, thanks so much. I wanted to start again with the fact that while I'm talking to my experts here, that even as the president was shuttled out there to try to clean up, because so many Republicans, so many national security experts, so many people in his own administration were upset by what he said, he still couldn't help himself. Bottom line, he doesn't believe and accept the intelligence community's assessment. So he contradicts himself even when asserting that he does. Let's run that clip once more.
President Putin, he just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
Okay, so that's what he said yesterday. Now let's run the clip from today when he undermines his attempted contradiction.
I would like to clarify, just in case it wasn't. In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia.
Then he said that he did accept the conclusion of the intelligence community, and then he undermined it, and I'd like to play that clip. All right, we don't have that clip for some reason, but it is him saying a lot of other people out there could have been other people. And what is that?
Who can buy this shred of an excuse that he trotted out today? One thing is clear from the Helsinki summit. If he did not collude with Russia during the campaign, he's certainly colluding with Vladimir Putin on the cover-up because they're trotting out the same lines. The president went rogue during that summit. And when he came home, he ran into a brick wall of Republicans on Capitol Hill, his allies in the media, pretty much everyone saying this is unacceptable. And so you see him try to clean this up, very much in the same way he did in the aftermath of the Access Hollywood videos, when Republican pressure was put on him in such a way he did apologize before he doubled down again. I expect he will double down again in trashing the intelligence community, because that has been his consistent line since the election, since the campaign. And so my question for Republicans is, who do you trust? This is a time for choosing. Donald Trump sided with Putin over the intelligence community. And if Republicans on Capitol Hill do that, it is a sad, dark time for America.
But he's still siding with Vladimir Putin, even when he came home. I mean, in that press conference, he did say, thank goodness, that he believes the U.S. intelligence community.
Today's comments.
Presser.
Yeah.
But from a national security perspective, in a lot of ways, I actually feel worse after that press conference, because he just spent however many more minutes talking about the areas for positive cooperation with Russia, talking about areas for positive cooperation with North Korea. Okay, we can work on those, and not calling out the litany of other things that President Putin is still doing to make us unsafe. That's deeply worrisome to me. He's home now.
Scott, I just want to read this. Quote, I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also, a lot of other people out there. That seems to be, to me, completely contradicting that he accepts the intelligence community's conclusion.
Yeah, it would be better not to have done anything today at all if you were going to throw that phrase in. Look, I've thought about this a lot for the last 24 hours. The first time I've been on, and this reminds me a lot of the Charlottesville situation, where you get thrown into a moment, you make a serious mistake, and let's be honest, this was probably the low moment of the presidency. Charlottesville maybe also was a bad moment for me too. Then you try to walk it back, and then the walk back gets muddled because you didn't get that exactly right either. At the end of the day, I've been thinking there are three things. One, he has got to get it in his mind that there's a difference between collusion and Russian interference. They can interfere in our election, and they did, but it doesn't mean you have to admit to collusion, and it doesn't delegitimize your presidency. That's absolutely true, and that's what most Republicans believe. Number two, somebody around him has got to get him thinking beyond the next 10 minutes. There's a legacy piece here. What are they going to say about you 10 years from today, 100 years from today? Let's stop trying to get through the next 10 minutes and get through the next 4 years, 8 years, and legacy. And then finally, I seriously hope they are considering him giving a major national speech on the concept of American exceptionalism. Because what strikes me about all of this is that if you believe, well, we do it, they do it, then we're not exceptional. Then America's no different than anybody else. Like Russia, with a tiny economy and a dictator, we are exceptional. So I think the president should give a speech reaffirming his views on American exceptionalism, and that would help, I think, calm the waters.
Can I interject really quickly? I need a speech on what he meant on cooperating with Russia. What he laid out during that summit, proposing a joint cybersecurity initiative, possibly accepting the idea that we would subject the Russian intelligence member we recently indicted to questioning by Russian agents. What on earth was he talking about? We're so caught up into whether he believes our own intelligence community. We're just drawing a blind eye to all the other crazy ideas that he actually proposed on the world stage deliberately.
Mm-hmm. That's my question. Did he? What else did the president go rogue on, or were those in fact in the talking points? Look, I said right here prior to this Helsinki summit, and I said Donald Trump isn't going to give us nothing new. He is going to go in and do what he's always done: side with Putin. He has noted that even in the face of clear, sheer evidence, he is going to take the side of President Putin. So as I said then, I'm going to say now. What will Republicans on Capitol Hill do? I need more than just statements. I need more than just tweets. There are legislative things that Republicans on Capitol Hill can do. They have a majority in the Senate. If they wanted to pass legislation, they could. The fact that they haven't speaks broadly.
They have before.
Well, the one thing I want to say, though, about this particular thing is Senator McConnell and Speaker Ryan came out and they did not use the president's name. They said a lot about Putin. They didn't say anything about Donald Trump. Although we saw folks like Congressman Will Hurd, Congressman Costello, they came out and they named Donald Trump. I think in this instance, it's really important to name names. And for Republicans who are not naming names, it says to me that they're scared. The president has ran away with our goddamn democracy. What are folks going to do about it?
Talk, if you would, about what it's like for Republicans on Capitol Hill who are trying to make this decision right now. They are all, with the exception of Rand Paul possibly, appalled. They can't believe what they heard yesterday. They can't believe the president continues to say these things. What's the decision when a Mitch McConnell or a Paul Ryan doesn't name the president, but instead just reaffirms what they believe, which completely contradicts the president?
Well, not only did they reaffirm what they believe, but they also laid out penalties for future election interference. I mean, McConnell was quite clear today about his views about Russia did meddle and that they shouldn't do it again and that there will be consequences for that. I keep hearing, what are the Republicans going to do? I follow a great military national security analyst on Twitter named John Noonan. He said, don't forget, they've already done several things. We've increased military spending, greater intelligence budget, more NATO exercises in the Baltic, lethal aid to the Ukraine, developing new low-yield nuclear weapons.
All
we have a NATO resolution.
Yeah.
We've got discussions of new sanctions, the old sanctions. These are all things that Russia absolutely hates. And so the Republicans in Congress, Simone, have already stood up to Russia. You don't like what Trump is doing, but I think it's unfair to blame them for not doing enough.
Well, I do not think it's unfair because let me tell you, Congress is a co-equal branch of government, folks. So I appreciate everything that Republicans in Congress have done up until this point. But our president stood on the stage next to Vladimir Putin the other day and gave him a back rub, put lotion on his feet, proverbial lotion on the man's feet. And so my question is, and today he attempted to squirm out of what he said and then continued to step on all of it.
What do you want him to do?
I would like them to, they can censure the president. They can come out and say Donald Trump, Leader McConnell can do that, so can Speaker Ryan.
Mention his
name.
We
do not agree with you. I think that is a forceful show that we are standing up to not only Putin, but our own president. And I'll tell you, voters across the country have noted that they want a Congress to be a check on this president. Yeah. Folks going to lose their jobs
do what they did
if
before,
they can't do that.
And agreeing with both of you, the Senate passed 97-2 sanctions against Russia, which the president was against. Remember, he signed these sanctions under duress. There's a whole lot more that we can do on the sanctions side, perhaps starting in the legislative branch, to hit Russia where it actually hurts, which is their oil and gas sector. We know President Trump's not going to come up and do that by himself, right? We just saw what happened in Helsinki. Congress can do that. The Republicans can do that, working with the Democrats, and I actually think it has a shot of getting through.
What's also interesting, Amanda, is that what President Trump is doing is so at odds with not only what Republicans on Capitol Hill generally believe, but also what his own national security advisors want. I mean, John Bolton is one of the strongest Russia hawks out there, and it is surprising that he is now the national security advisor to this president who is saying and doing these things.
And that's where I think Congress needs to go. We need to find out what happened. If all his national security team gave him contradictory advice, he completely went rogue. I say that phrase deliberately because it seems that everyone else told him that he needed to make a strong statement. Something went wrong here. And Congress has an oversight function where it may come to public hearings, but I think they need to start pressuring the other cabinet members. This may be very uncomfortable. I understand that. People like Dan Coates, I think, are patriots and did try to stand up and do the right thing. But things need to get uncomfortable to find out how we ended up here.